You're listening to Parents You've Got This, the expert guide to parenthood, the complete guide to fertility, pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. This podcast is proudly supported by Mistela, a natural origin skincare for babies and children, recommended by healthcare professionals. Mistela by Parents Side since 1950.
This week on the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast, we're going to be talking all about memories. There is a huge pressure on parents to make the perfect childhood, but how much of it do they really remember?
We have called in our child psychologist expert, Dr. Deirdre Brandner, to ask her all about those all-important first memories, what our children will remember, and how we can take the pressure off ourselves as parents a little bit. Thank you so much, Dee, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Dee has more than 30 years of experience in both in private practice and public practice, and she is very well known around the media circuit, so she's probably very familiar to you. We are very grateful to have her as part of the Parents You've Got This expert team. So Dee, as always, thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Now, can we talk a little bit about how memories are formed?
Memories start with our little ones from an early age, and there's lots of different types of memories. There's procedural memories, there's incidental memories that happen as part of their development. But what they really are is the cognitive process of us taking in information and storing it in a way that's helpful. So whether it's remembering to recognise mum's face, or remembering that when I kick the mobile, it moves. And we know that initially, those memories that are laid down in the first months of a child's life usually disappear. When they become procedural, when we're learning to do things, they stick around for longer. But those first few months of a child's life, there isn't any evidence that tells us that those memories are recalled later on.
Wow. So what age do children start to recall their memories?
Research tells us that the most accurate recall of memories is from the age of 3 or 4. Now, lots of us will say, oh, no, I remember something that happened, when I was 2 or this. Yeah. We'll talk about the accuracy of memories a bit later, but we know that our studies tell us 3 or 4 years of age.
Okay, Dee, let's just jump straight to that. So is it accurate? Are our memories accurate?
Actually, they're not as accurate as we think. They're a lot more inconsistent. And it's a bit like that game, I don't know if you used to play it, called Telephone, and, each time you share the message, it gets a bit more distorted. So what we know is that memories can change over time because of the way we retell the story, the way that we recall a memory for a certain audience. So there'll be aspects of the memory that can remain constant, but the particular details can become blurred over time. And that's for children and also for adults.
Oh, so is it like the storytelling of the memory for the person you're telling it to?
Absolutely. It's perfect. And we know that there are some things that parents can do to help link experiences with memories, and it actually is about that. It's getting out those photos physically, not on the screen, and going through them and talking about what happened. It's getting out the things from each year gone by. So whether you always use the same plate for a happy birthday, it's those sorts of things. So it's the retelling and the revisiting that helps form the basis for the memory.
So parents can play a key role then in trying to help create memories.
Absolutely. And I think that we need to be really kind to ourselves, because research shows us that children are more likely to remember memories that happened more regularly. So they remember the fact that, every Friday we'd have fish and chips, or that, Dad, always, took us along the bike path, and we got a cupcake. So it's the incidental things that children are more likely to remember than what the big toy was that you bought them, or what was, the most amazing holiday that you went on. And in fact, the humour, or when things go wrong, is actually the memories that children are more likely to recall.
Yeah. Why is that? Why are our brains wired up to remember the bad things rather than the good things?
We know, and our clinical studies tell us that our recall of negative events is more accurate and more consistent than that for positive events. Usually because of the emotion that memory was stored with. So unfortunately, if it was a memory that was quite frightening or scary, that's a really strong feeling. So our brain pays a lot of attention to that. So it's stored a certain way. But the same can also be said for things that are funny. And,
yes. How good is fun?
Good. And even disastrous fun. Like, you saved up for this holiday and you got there and, I don't know, it rained for a week and, someone pushed someone down the stairs, they split their head open, you had to get stitches. Everyone remembers that holiday.
That's right.
But I think we can get caught up with saying, I have to manage. They can't remember bad memories. Memories are memories. It's the way we retell, the way we revisit. And we know that each time we revisit a memory or a story, it does become less traumatic.
Yeah, and often maybe less true. So what you're saying here is if maybe a parent has told you what happened to you when you were 6 or at a birthday, and then they kept telling you that story over and over again, then maybe you think that that's what happened, but maybe that didn't even happen at all.
Exactly. And someone an auntie might come in and say, actually, no, that's not what happened on that day. So
you weren't even there.
You weren't there. They're the best ones,
aren't they? Before you were born. Yeah. So, Dee, all of that said then, as parents, we do feel a huge amount of pressure to really, give our children the most brilliant, memorable childhood that we can. Yeah. What advice do you have for parents that are really wanting to, potentially create these traditions that you're speaking about, the way you have those repeat exposures to a tradition? What are some suggestions you have for parents?
Taking time and connection with your children is what's going to create the memory. And having that as their focus in that moment, that's really, that parent-child relationship is what children are going to base their experiences and memories of. And that's what goes on to help them build. So time, traditions, routines, patience, and celebrating moments. I think in the busyness of our lives nowadays, we forget to celebrate the small things. So it might be, the first time that, they remember to take their lunchbox out of their bag and making a big thing out of that. It might be the fact that, finally they've got on that bike without the training wheels. Making the most of those moments and really appreciating them, not just as a ticker box, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, it's like the million little things, isn't it? That it's far more important how you felt than that big toy.
Exactly, or that big expensive holiday. That's not what kids remember.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? So it's sort of like the everyday moments are more important than those big ones.
Yes.
Well, then, with that in mind, they say you've got 17 summers left, which is so much pressure because I feel like, my daughter's 13. I think they're running away those summers. Yep. How then do you create the best, childhood you possibly can for your children with this in mind?
I think we all want that for our children, Christy. We all want the best. The best is impossible and it's a ridiculous expectation, but making moments count is really important. Remember, your child's going to have a lot of experiences in their childhood, and that will start to form their identity, their sense of self, and who they want to be. So we don't have to make everything perfect all the time, but being part of their world, being a support person for them, is so much more important than saying, I make sure that, they went to every exhibition or that they got to see every Disney movie or whatever it is. That's not what you need to do. And it's really interesting, you say 17 summers. My children are in their late 20s, early 30s now, and I know that I still have so many more memories to lay down with them. So it doesn't have to stop at 18.
That's so beautiful, Dee. Thank you so much for coming on the Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast. We are very grateful that you are part of the Parents You've Got This expert team. A huge thanks to Mistela for sponsoring this episode. Mistela empowers parents throughout their parenting journey with education and honest conversations from pregnancy and beyond. Mistela has plenty of parenting articles and resources on their website. Visit mistela.com.au. Mistela is our family's favourite. The Expert Guide to Parenthood podcast is proudly brought to you by Parents You've Got This, and in partnership with Mistela. We have a team of 30 amazing health and medical professionals who we bring in to answer your questions. So please give our episodes a listen, and never forget, parents, you've got this.
Join a Parents You've Got This masterclass today to be prepared, excited and educated for pregnancy, birth, baby and parenthood. Visit www.parentsyou'vegotthis.com.au and sign up for a masterclass today.
The information provided in this podcast is general in nature and is intended to support, not replace, a discussion with your doctor or healthcare professional. Parents You've Got This take no responsibility for any medical decisions made by individuals based on the information provided in this podcast.